In 1953, a chemist at the CIA dosed his own coworker with LSD without telling him. No warning, no consent, just a drink. Spiked at a work retreat. 9 days later, that man was dead, falling from a hotel window in New York City. And here's the part that should really bother you. The CIA didn't even get in trouble for it. Not really. Not for another 20 years. Welcome to the story of MKUltra. You've probably heard the name before, maybe as a punchline, maybe as internet shorthand for government conspiracy. Oh, that's just MKUltra stuff. But the reality is stranger and darker than most of the memes let on, because this wasn't some fringe experiment run by a rogue agent in a basement. This was the CIA. Official, funded, sanctioned at the highest levels, and it ran for over 2 decades. So how does a spy agency end up running mind control experiments on unwitting American citizens? Let's back up. It's the early 1950s. The Cold War is heating up, and American intelligence officials are terrified of something specific: brainwashing. Soldiers captured during the Korean War were coming back saying strange things. Some had confessed to war crimes they probably didn't commit. Others seemed to genuinely believe communist propaganda they'd been fed in captivity. The CIA looked at this and panicked. If the Soviets and the Chinese could reprogram a human mind, what would stop them from doing it to American agents? Or worse, what if the US could learn to do it first? That fear became a program, and the program became a person. His name was Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist by training, quiet, unassuming, walked with a limp from a childhood condition. Not exactly the villain you'd picture. But Gottlieb became the head of MKUltra in 1953, and under his direction, the agency began pouring resources into a single, unsettling question. Can we control the human mind? Not persuade it, not influence it, control it. To find out, they tried almost everything. LSD, mostly, dosing test subjects, sometimes with their knowledge, often without it, sensory deprivation, electroshock, hypnosis, sleep deprivation stretched to the edge of what a human body could take. Some of this happened in official government facilities. Some of it happened in safe houses the CIA nicknamed safe houses with a straight face, even though nothing about them was safe. And some of it happened to people who had no idea they were part of an experiment at all. That's the detail that tends to stop people cold. This wasn't only prisoners or soldiers who'd signed up for something. The CIA tested on mental patients, on prisoners with no real ability to refuse, on sex workers, dosed in CIA-run brothels while agents watched through one-way glass. A sub-project with the unbelievably casual code name Operation Midnight Climax. And yes, that's a real name. You couldn't make it dark enough to compete with the truth. Would you consent to any of that if someone actually asked you first? Almost certainly not, which is exactly why they didn't ask. The man who died from that spiked drink in 1953, his name was Frank Olson, a biochemist working for the Army, invited to a retreat, given LSD without his knowledge as part of a CIA test. Days later, he was dead, falling from a 10th floor window under circumstances that are still argued over to this day. Was it suicide brought on by a bad drug reaction the agency didn't understand yet? Or something else? We don't fully know. What we do know is that the CIA didn't tell his family the truth for over 20 years. Imagine grieving someone, burying them, raising children without them, and only decades later learning the agency responsible had known exactly what happened the whole time. So why didn't this all come out sooner? Because in 1973, the man running the CIA at the time, Richard Helms, gave an order: destroy the MKUltra files, not archive them, not classify them, destroy them. Boxes of documentation on one of the most ethically catastrophic programs in American history, shredded and burned on his direct instruction, just as the Watergate scandal was starting to make Washington nervous about what else might be hiding in government basements. It should have disappeared completely. Almost did. But here's the thing about paperwork. It has a way of surviving in places people forget to check. A separate cache of financial records, filed under budget and accounting rather than the program name itself, survived a purge. Thousands of pages. Enough to confirm what victims and whistleblowers had been saying for years but couldn't prove. That surviving paperwork became public in the mid-1970s, right alongside a wave of congressional investigations into just how far American intelligence agencies had overstepped. The most famous of these was the Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church, which spent 1975 dragging CIA officials in front of the Senate to answer for MKUltra, along with assassination plots, illegal surveillance, and a long list of other things the public had never been told. For the first time, Americans heard directly from Senate testimony about experiments the government had run on its own citizens without consent. And the response from officials? A lot of, "We take this seriously now," and "safeguards have been put in place," which is the kind of thing you say when you got caught. Some victims and families did eventually get compensation. The Olson family reached a settlement with the government in 1976, along with a personal apology from President Gerald Ford. But money and an apology don't undo decades of not knowing. They don't undo the psychiatric patients who were experimented on without any real understanding of what was being done to their minds. They don't undo the fact that an entire generation of unwitting test subjects lived out their lives never learning why they'd struggled the way they did. Here's a question worth sitting with. How many MKUltra victims never found out? The files were burned. There's no master list. No apology can reach someone who never knew there was anything to apologize for. What makes MKUltra different from a lot of dark history is how recent it is. This isn't some distant historical footnote you can comfortably file away as things were different back then. Sidney Gottlieb died in 1999. Frank Olson's son spent decades trying to get answers about his father's death, and some of that fight continued well into the 2000s. The last MKUltra-related lawsuit wasn't settled generations ago. It's practically in living memory. And that's what should actually stick with you here. Not just that a government agency ran unethical experiments. Plenty of institutions have dark chapters. What's chilling about MKUltra is the machinery around it. The code names designed to sound almost like inside jokes. The careful bureaucratic decision to destroy the evidence. The years of silence toward families who deserved the truth immediately. This wasn't chaos. It was organized, documented, budgeted, approved. So next time you see MKUltra thrown around as an internet punchline, a shorthand for the government is hiding something, remember what's actually underneath that joke. Real people, real deaths that still don't have full answers, a cover-up that worked for 2 decades, and a quiet chemist named Sidney Gottlieb who, by his own admission later in life, wasn't sure the entire program ever produced anything usable at all. All that harm, all that secrecy, and in the end, even the people running it couldn't say for certain it was worth it. So no, it wasn't some rogue agent in a basement. It was the government of the United States, official and funded, spending millions of dollars in 20 years trying to find out if it could control the human mind. And when people ask what they actually learned from it all, the honest answer might be barely anything, and far too late for the people who paid for it.